guys. As you can see, I like reading. If you guys just want to hear the book list, well, you can go skip ahead to this point in the video. I hate when there's videos and there's people talking before actually getting to the point of the video for a long time. But if you like that kind of stuff, then go right ahead and keep watching. But if you just want the book list, skip ahead to this point. I'll have something. And in this video, I'll just talk about a little bit about each book and why I like it so much. Basically, I'm back early from my mission that was supposed to be for 2 years. That was a whole great experience. For the 9 months I was out in Colombia, I'll probably make a whole separate video just on that topic. I got a lot of great stories to tell, and stay tuned for that. The main reason I'm making this video is mainly because I've got a lot of free time on my hands, and so I'm gonna take advantage of the free time, slap together a quick video because it's more important to get stuff out there. Even if it's not the best content, I just want to get stuff out there so I don't get lazy and stop putting things out there. This should be a good video because I'll be giving you guys as much value as I can, and that's through the power of reading. Let's get reading. The whole start of my life, I hated reading. And the main reason was because I didn't know what to read. I always picked terrible books for some reason. If we go to the library, I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I would just grab a random book and it had a cool picture. I would just judge the books by their covers and take them and end up not liking them. I think it was in high school when I read some books that just really changed my whole perspective on things. And so I want to share with you guys some of my book recommendations to help you guys have that same change of mind on reading. Because if you're not reading, what are you doing? The more knowledge you have, well, the further you'll go in life. Here in this video, I'll be sharing my top 10 books, basically of all time. I don't want to say that I've read like a bunch of books. I've read a good amount, I think, to like form my opinion on these good books that I have picked out for you guys. This book list will definitely be updating as I read more books, so I might just update this book list like yearly, or I might just make separate book lists for the different genres. But this book list right here is my top 10 favorite books of all time that any one of you, like, I will recommend you get and start reading because it is a certified good book. So we're gonna start in order from 10 all the way to my favorite book. The way I picked these books was just the change I had on my life, the influence. If I just couldn't stop putting this book down, if I just really loved every moment of the book, then it made this list. And I expect it to have that same effect on you guys. These are books that are very memorable to me. And to see maybe some of these books you guys like too, I'm sure there'll be at least 1 or 2 books you guys maybe have never heard of. So watch out for that. Alright guys, we're gonna start this list with my top 10 favorite book, which is Born to Run by Christopher McDougall. I recommend this book if you're anything like me and you like running. It goes into a lot of the science about running. It goes into some crazy stories about runners around the world, about ultra marathons, about a Mexican tribe of runners. It's pretty crazy stuff, and if you want to get inspired to run more, then I recommend this book for sure. Alright, the next book on my list, number 9, is Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. If you want to learn about marketing, if you want to learn about growing a business, if you want to grow your business, you need to check out this book because it goes in depth about using social media to do that. It gives some really powerful examples, really insightful information. Gary Vaynerchuk is an absolute genius when it comes to this stuff. He predicted the rise of TikTok way before anybody else did, I think. Like as soon as it came out, he was on TikTok and he's been on there for a long time now. And he knew this would come. So he's a pretty smart guy, he's pretty well known. If you're interested in that kind of stuff in business and marketing, then Crushing It is a must read for you because we live in the social media age. If you want to build your brand through social media, this is the book to read. Okay, book number 8 on my list is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So habits are basically the most important thing. This book talks about that our identities are just made up of all the tiny little habits we do every day. And if we want to change our identity, if we want to become a better person, we have to change those tiny little habits that we do every day. And this book gives you such practical advice, such practical examples that you read one chapter and you already have 10 things to start doing ASAP. It's not a lot of theory, it's mostly just do this and you will get this results. You guys should definitely read it if you're trying to change any habit, if you're trying to break a bad habit or make good habits, because that's basically every day. It's just a bunch of little habits combined into one thing. Number 7 is Dune by Frank Herbert. So this is the first fiction book on the list, and honestly this book really is a masterpiece. This is like the original Star Wars is what people claim. This book is so amazing for its story, for its world building. The author does a really good job with that, and especially the characters in this book. There's some pretty interesting characters and interesting character development, especially with the protagonist. This book always just comes to my head when I think of science fiction, when I think of good stories, good writing. It's a pretty thick book, and like just like small print. It's like 2 parts actually, but well worth it because the 2 parts, well, they just build a fantastic story that spreads over many years, and it's really awesome storyline. So I recommend you guys check this out if you're into science fiction, and if you're into like a good revenge story. So that's why I recommend this book. Okay, so the number 6 book on my list is Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. If you're into like, well, first off, leadership, if you're into any type of management stuff like that, and you need to check this book out for the principles. But not only that, the principles are awesome. What really sells this book is the stories it tells with those principles. Every principle they give is illustrated with like a real example from these Navy SEALs. They go talk about their combat stories, what happens there, and how they have to lead people in these dangerous situations. And so there's a lot of like stories in here that are pretty crazy, that are actually real. It just shows the importance of a good leader. It shows the importance of taking extreme ownership. Extreme ownership basically means putting aside ego and basically taking full responsibility for whatever happens to you and your team. Alright, so next up on this list, the autobiography of Malcolm X. This is my favorite autobiography. I mean, I haven't read too many autobiographies, but this is easily the best one because just the story of Malcolm X is just so amazing to me. His story is super unexpected. I never had pictured this kind of past. He was in prison for all kinds of crimes. He was in all kinds of different crime groups, doing crazy things. And so this book is definitely a must read because this dude is such an influential person, and you're gonna love this dude's story. It's just a really great read. All the adversity he had to go through, and so it's really motivational and really insightful on a really charismatic and awesome person in history. So check this book out. Alright guys, the 4th book on my list is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but this book is amazing. It was hard not to make this book any higher on my list. This book is just super inspirational. I don't even know how it's so inspirational. It's a fiction book. It's a really captivating story, honestly. Yeah, I went into this book with like 0 expectations. I thought it was just a really great story, and that's why everybody was hyping it up. But when I went to read it, I was in for a treat. Like, this is a really short book, but it's super powerful. I guess the whole point of this book is like alchemy. You can make things from other things. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's been a while since I read this book, but super inspirational nonetheless. Check this book out for sure, because this is a must read. Like, the books I'm probably gonna mention after this are all must reads, but for sure this is a short one that anybody can get into and will love, I promise you. Okay, so the next book on my list is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You definitely probably have heard this book. It's definitely on probably every influencer's book list out there. Anybody who makes it to the top, they always end up recommending this book at some point. And it's just because this book is just filled with so much useful advice, so much practical advice that you can put into play immediately. From anything that has to do with influencing people, with being a better person, being kinder. If you read this book and you apply the things that it tells you, then you definitely are going to come out of this book a better person. You're definitely going to come out of this book knowing how to deal better with people, how to build better relationships, how to win friends and influence people. Literally, the purpose of the book is in the title, and you will definitely achieve those things if you apply what's in this book. Alright guys, the next book on my list is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read this book about a year ago. I just looked up most popular fiction books. This book came up and I bought it because they made a movie about it, so I assumed it had to be somewhat good. It's not your typical from point A to B book or plot line. It's a book that has so many twists and so many turns. This book just plays with your expectations from the very beginning. There's constantly a lot of plot twists. I don't want to say a whole lot because once you experience these twists, you're just left wanting more. You're just left super involved in this book. This is my favorite fiction book of all time. I'm just really into kind of like the mystery genre, the whodunits, the crime type stuff. If you're kind of into any of that, or just into any like good story in general, you're gonna love this book. So do check out Gone Girl. Alright guys, so we're about to head into #1 book on my top 10 book list. So basically, probably my favorite book of all time. Drum roll please. My favorite book of all time is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. The reason I picked this book to be my favorite was just because of the influence this book has had on my life so far. This book probably messes with so many of the ideas that you have over money, or school, or education, and all kinds of different things. And it really just changes your whole mind about a lot of things. I really like the way that it's written. It talks about like it's like given as a story at first, and then it like dives into more technical stuff as the book goes on. Technical stuff is a little bit more forgetful. Like if you're a little bit more advanced, then you definitely want to check out that stuff too. But just for the very beginning of the book, this book is my favorite of all time. It's just because as I read this book, my eyes were just completely open the entire time that I was reading this book. This book had more of an effect on me than any of these other books, and so that's why I love it so much. And I want all of you guys to experience that same feeling. So go check this book out immediately. It's not very long, and you'll love it, every second of it. Alright guys, so that pretty much concludes my list. Just to run it back, so that's my complete top 10 book list. There's a chance I might have missed the book that I read a little while back. So I'm definitely going to be updating this book list probably once a year maybe. As I read a bunch of more books, I'm definitely going to be trying to read a lot more as I grow older. Let me know what you guys think about this list, if any of your favorite books made it to my list. Maybe if you guys have a different take on how I ordered these books, let me know in the comments or message me, however you guys want to be in touch with me. Just to try to get you guys to read more, because I know at one point I was barely reading, and that was just because I did not know what books to read. Maybe this list will help you overcome that. Maybe you might see a book on this list that we'll decide to try out and read. Just good luck guys. I hope you guys can start reading as soon as possible if you aren't already. And so if you're going to start reading, you don't have to read a whole lot to start. Just a page a day is a good way to start. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today, and so I'll see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Bye.